I'm Laurie Blake. Welcome to the WrestleTalk news. On Fridays, we wear pink. And it's Happy International Women's Day. You go, girls. Well, it's not. I just, because there were like two stories in the very top of the news script, I just thought that it would be. Oh, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. Cool. Of course it is. Yes, because it's reportedly a sad time for the women's divisions on both sides of the wrestling aisle, with backstage unrest in both WWE and AEW. We're going to start with the Fed, as WRKD Wrestling on Twitter, I am not calling it X, have claimed that there are growing frustrations backstage in WWE regarding the handling of the women's division. This comes amid fan outrage that Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus was pulled from the SummerSlam card, despite both women being healthy and available for the match, and Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley not being booked for the show. So what? Now we don't get to see Mummy on the weekends. What is this? My childhood? Becky Lynch posted some images to Instagram that she had taken as part of the press for the show with the caption, "This was the shoot I did for SummerSlam, ... And we all know you only use ... for a dramatic pause when you're going to continue saying stuff, and because she didn't say stuff, you show it when you think something is a load of crap. Alright? And before you get on my case that I only care about what the man thinks in this situation of WWE Women's Division turmoil, Rhea Ripley also posted a reply to WWE PR's Twitter post about her SummerSlam glam, noting that it should be SummerSlam media appearance look for reasons we all know of. Ooh. Those reasons reportedly being timing related, according to Dave Meltzer, who said that time restraints are the major reason that matches are being pulled from the show. But funnily enough, it's two women's matches having been pulled from the show and not the men's ones. Over the fence at AEW, they've got their own issues. Firstly, with signage making a prominent appearance on Dynamite, calling for the company to book the women's division better. Admittedly, the women's title match closed the 200th episode of Dynamite this week, with Hikaru Shida walking out as the new champion. Small steps. But all is seemingly not as it would outwardly appear, as the company has also come under fire from independent scene veteran Lufisto, who worked with the company briefly and said that some women had too much power backstage and trash-talked newcomers in the locker room, calling the whole thing a toxic environment. She also implied that someone had used their backstage influence to keep her out of AEW, which many people then speculated was Britt Baker because they worked together, as rumors had also pointed to a backstage rift between the two of them. But then sources close to Wrestling Inc. and close to Baker told them that Baker had no involvement with keeping Lufisto out of AEW. But Lou's issues didn't end there, as she also detailed an awkward encounter with Ruby Soho and Dustin Rhodes, where it was claimed that Dustin referred to all French-Canadian people as arseholes backstage and criticised her after her match for AEW, saying that she had made the other women look bad. Rhodes responded to the comments on Twitter saying that sometimes as a coach I have to be very honest, and I won't tell you a lie about how good or bad it was. Sometimes hard love comes out, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Hard Love, the title of your next AEW pay-per-view. Rhodes also denied the French-Canadian bit to a fan, saying he didn't say that. And here I was, naively thinking that Barbie had solved this whole sort of thing. That's what I get for wearing pink, I guess. Before we crack on with the rest of the news, I'm just going to hop in here and say that you can head on over to PFK and watch the finale of me, Luke, and Pete playing AEW Fight Forever's Road to Elite mode right now. It goes so horribly wrong. Please watch it, because we love making this series and we'd love to make more like it with other wrestling games, but we can only really do that if people watch them. While we're on the topic of Tony Khan's women's division, there is a rather large Jade Cargill-shaped hole in AEW at present, isn't there? Because yes, despite many naturally expecting Cargill to continue that 60-0 momentum into the AEW Women's World title scene following her loss of the TBS Championship at Double or Nothing, Jade has instead vanished. However, what at first seems just like a bit of time off has now turned into serious questions whether the 31-year-old will in fact return to AEW at all. This has largely stemmed from Cargill's extremely non-committal tweets regarding an AEW return and just pro wrestling in general. The Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer then added to this by claiming that Cargill was not expected back in AEW anytime soon. So, What's the actual situation? What's the situation? What's going on? Well, speaking to PW Insider's Mike Johnson, AEW President Tony Khan said Jade is still with the company, has just been taking a sabbatical since losing her TBS title. Khan would then add that he couldn't say for certain what anybody's going to do in the future, but certainly we value Jade and everything she's done here. For what it's worth, Cargill has continued to do a lot of retweeting of Tony Khan and AEW roster tweets, so it seems likely a return will in fact come at some point. You would imagine there's no bad blood there. Moving over to AEW's newest arrival now, there have been some fresh details on what we can expect from Mr. Rob Van Dam following his appearance on this week's Dynamite, because we know that RVD is going to be stepping into the ring for an FTW rules match on next Wednesday's show against Jack Perry. But now that Rob is Mr. Wednesday Night, what can we expect from him going forward? Nothing. Nada. Nothing is the answer. Nothing. Because yes, similar to the fleeting appearance of Rob's fellow ECW alumni Sabu, it looks like the whole effing show is looking set for a one and done with AEW. As PW Insider is reporting that the Hall of Famer is only due for this one match with Perry and nothing else. Despite these short-term plans, the appearance of RVD in AEW has reportedly been discussed for a wee while, according to Fightful Select. What was supposedly holding up the whole debut was the clearing of the license to use Walk by Pantera for RVD's entrance music. You got to admire the appreciation for nostalgic pro wrestling theme music and Tony Khan's deep pockets in buying all of those songs. Now, despite Rob showing up in AEW, PW Insider is interestingly reporting that he is also advertised for WWE's WrestleMania 40 weekend packages in Philadelphia, which of course is the home of ECW. While RVD may end up appearing in AEW and WWE in the next year, one act that will not do both is of course the Elite. The Elite. Because yes, with Nick and Mac Jackson, Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page all re-signing on the dotted lining for AEW, any and all WWE speculation has now been bedeaded. It's been deaded. But how close were the former Bullet Club boys from crossing over the battle lines after all? Well, according to Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, the four men went back and forth on the decision, but one thing that was for certain is that they would all be sticking together, whether that was in AEW or WWE. Meltzer continued that they actually conducted a majority rules pact on the decision, which clearly went the way of them landing on staying with AEW. While WWE were reported to have interest in all members of the Elite, there was particular interest in Stanford for obviously a Kenneth Omega, one of the best wrestlers in the world. With Meltzer saying WWE did have interest in all of them, especially Omega. They had great interest in Omega in particular. As for the length of the deals, Meltzer was a little bit less sure, with the exact number of years supposed to be a secret. However, Meltzer had heard that it could be as many as 4 years. Sounds like more than enough time to set up that CM Punk match, eh? Got like a year to get them talking, and then you can sort of work on the match bit. While WWE have to contend without the Elite on their books, they do of course have more than enough talent to play with. So many they can't fit them all on SummerSlam. While we've already discussed all the women that were cut from the SummerSlam card, of course, there is a member of the male roster that may be sneaking back into the fold come tomorrow's show, August the 5th. The man in question is former NXT champion Bobby Roode, who has been out of action for well over a year now, undergoing serious neck surgery in late 2022. While it had previously been reported earlier this year that the Roode boy was expected to be out for quite some time, perhaps that may no longer be the case. PW Insider is reporting that Roode has been spotted in Detroit just days before the biggest party of the summer, so perhaps there could be another surprise comeback on the cards. Whether this will in fact come to fruition remains to be seen, however, especially considering the severity of Roode's neck problems and the recency of his surgery. However, if it did, there is perhaps a perfect opportunity to reintroduce Roode courtesy of the Slim Jim Battle Royal. What's a Slim Jim? But hey, how would you book Roode's return to WWE? Let us know in the comments down below. Speaking of SummerSlam, the card for the show is now seemingly set in stone, and it's pretty dang solid, it has to be said. Although that finalization comes with its own disappointments because of the Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez and Trish Stratus versus Becky Lynch not making the card, and the lack of a stipulation for Cody versus Brock 3. Because while there have been murmurs regarding WWE granting Cody the best early Christmas gift ever in the form of a dog collar match, he just bloody loves them, that, unsurprisingly, hasn't happened, with the match set to be the pair's third straight standard singles encounter. But despite some form of stipulation being expected by fans, was it ever close to being implemented by WWE? Well, according to Fightful Select, despite the speculation, there was never a stipulation pitched or considered heavily by the WWE. The dog collar match in particular was reportedly never on the cards. That's according to sources on both sides. Supposedly, the limit of the whole stipulation idea was, does this match need a stipulation? And it was agreed that it doesn't, something I disagreed with. Did the third match need to happen? Not necessarily. So yeah, no dog collars, weapons, or bleeding for Cody and Brock. I think Cody specifically will be very upset by that. Speaking of upset, we're going to tie up today's news in a little bow of anger as we once again return to another disgruntled talent in the WWE locker room. This particular talent, however, has not been shy at all lately in venting his frustrations. I am, of course, talking about Sheamus, who had plenty to say prior to Money in the Bank regarding his lack of a match on the card, and now, ahead of SummerSlam, he's been at it once again. Despite actually having a match on August 5th with the aforementioned Slim Jim Battle Royale, Shamo still carries a little bit of resentment regarding WWE's booking of him ever since his banger with Gunther at Clash at the Castle. Speaking to the Daily Star, the Celtic Warrior revealed that he was upset regarding WWE not capitalizing on the momentum that he had following his war with the Ring General. Sheamus said, "I came out of that with so much organic momentum and it was just wasted. It didn't go anywhere. It was a dead end, just like with WrestleMania. Drew went away because he was injured, but I was ready to go and then just nothing. There were no avenues and nowhere to go, and that's frustrating." Sheamus even went on to call the War Games match at Survivor Series 2022 clearly feeling he could have been positioned for more. Just don't let Vince hear that, or War Games will truly be dead forever. Just don't. It was good. It was. We loved it. We all loved it. We can definitely see Sheamus's point, though. It really did feel like they were perhaps going to potentially book him in a major Roman Reigns title angle post-Clash, but it just never materialized. Come on, WWE, throw him out a bone and have him be the one to dethrone Gunther after the record, and then Sheamus can do the I've done the thing. Happy Friday, folks. Go and watch the Fight Forever thing. It's there. You can click it. You can just click it and watch it. If you did, I'd really like you. Just click that, watch it.